What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Jesse Warden here. A little concerned. I saw an article today by Charlotte Spencer. It's been making the rounds on Twitter. It says, as a new developer, making a euphemism to a user story. We say, as a something, some type of user, some type of persona, I want to accomplish X. All right, that's typically how you write user stories in agile development. As a developer, I feel inadequate. Now, she has a long list of these, and I want to go over every single one of these points that she makes and show, if you're a learning developer, how you can not worry about these things. I think it's extremely poignant in JavaScript development where you have an ever-changing landscape, right? You look at Objective-C or Java or even PHP, the rate of change is not that hardcore. Whereas in JavaScript, things change daily. The build system in which you build your stuff on, the library of the day, the framework in which you architect applications, all of those changing all at once, as long as the core language, ES3, ES5, ES6, or TypeScript on top, all that stuff can make you extremely insecure amongst the other regular things a new developer has to deal with. I think this is a great post for senior developers to read and architects and kind of remember where they came from and some of the refresher, as well as context of what new developers are dealing with today. Not much has changed, but it's still a lot to take in. So I want to cover each one of these, and if you're a new developer, remind you it's not that bad. You're on the right path. You're going good. These are normal things to feel, and they're normal things to overcome, and it's all good. And some of these never go away. So just expect that. So I feel inadequate. Feelings of inadequacy. I don't know what to tell you. Everyone feels inadequate when they go to an interview, they don't make it, or they contribute source code and their PR is rejected, or they try to build something and it doesn't work, and they have a series of like 10 tries and only one of them works. Maybe you try to contribute to a new code base and you get a bug. These feelings of inadequacy will pass. You will get that feeling of something working, and it just makes it all go away. It makes all the years pain and suffering just feel worth it. So it is worth it. That will go away. I see people publish their side projects all the time. I do, and they're side experiments. They're not projects. So that's putting people on pedestals, okay? Not everything we publish are projects. Just because we think it's neat, we might have years of experience. People who have just as much experience or less could look at that and go, that's gross. So I'd be careful calling them projects. A lot of them are just experiments, trying to learn, hoping that others can learn. Some people take a lot of time and effort to wrap up something really small and make it look very special. Other people like me take barely any time to throw it out there and go, if you like it, cool. If you don't, no, whatever. The amount of wrapping upon some of these side projects needs to be taken in context, okay? I see my friends in good jobs. Okay, that is social media lying to you. Everyone posts usually the good things about the world. They very rarely, unless you follow certain people on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, very rarely post the negative things about their life. So be careful when you say good job. Some people, deal with technical debt all day, and they focus on the positives. They don't focus on the negatives. So I think seeing people in good jobs, you don't know if they're in a good job. Having a job is a good job. I see people submit pull requests to code I don't understand. If you don't know what a pull request is, it's when you want to make a modification, fix, or enhancement to an existing code base, traditionally on a Git-based system like GitHub or Bitbucket. You'll file a PR. That means I forked a code base, I checked in some code, I want to have this merged in. Before I can do that, people have to approve it. It's called a pull request. I would like you to pull this code into your main code. And some people have a lot of rigmarole and process around getting those PRs. So when you look at PRs, especially from the popular repos, you'll have a lot of type A and type B players in an industry, whether it's Objective-C or PHP or JavaScript, it doesn't matter. And they'll be going deep on these discussions, and it can be very overwhelming, especially when you're searching for a technical topic and these PRs come up on Google results for fixing problems. And you're like, oh, okay, instead of Stack Overflow, it's a PR. It can be overwhelming. So don't worry about it. You'll eventually understand it. I stare at the code I've written, and it reads as gobbledygook. That goes away. The more you read code, it's just like practicing. The more you do the deadlift, the stronger you get at the deadlift. The more you run, the faster you get and or longer distance. Same with code. The more you do it, eventually you'll be able to read it. It's not the end of the world. And one thing I forgot to point out about coding, I remember to this day when I was in Flash and I was learning ActionScript. And at the time in Flash 4, there was a button to, instead of do point and click coding, it was, think about Blockly, if you ever messed with Blockly, except it was for JavaScript. there was a button to go in expert mode where it was basically Notepad and Flash. I remember the day when I went in Notepad and I went from 40 lines of code to 100. It took me about 3 hours. At the end of it, I was mentally exhausted. And I struggled the next day and at the time to read through and kind of fill in my head that 100 lines of code of how it worked. Now I can do that with about 50,000. Your brain is a muscle. You exercise it just like anything else. And like everything else in the human body, it gets stronger. The more stimuli you do it, it adapts and it gets stronger. If you stretch it doing more code and more complexity, as you're learning that complexity and how to reduce that complexity, your brain gets stronger. You will be able to look at that and you're going to look back in 5 years and go, oh my God. That's why it's great to keep all these things that you've written, the side projects that are like 100 lines of code. So you can come back from 5 years and go, oh my God, that's where I started. It's amazing. It's amazing. You're going to feel really good about yourself. How many hours a day should be programming? You should be programming as many hours a day as you want to. Eventually, you'll get burnout, and you won't be able to. So enjoy it while it lasts. You got to recharge, and then do what fits in your lifestyle. Do 10x programmers exist? Yes, they do. If so, am I one? Maybe. If not, why not? If not, why not? You're asking the right question. So you might be a 10x programmer. You just might not be experienced enough, and that's okay. Or you may have hit a roadblock, or there might be just knowledge you don't know. Just keep going. You're on the right path. As a new developer, I feel constant pressure to prove that I'm learning. Okay, if you don't want to learn, then take a break. If you take a break after a week and you're not burnt out and you just feel like you're in a relaxed and a good space and you still don't want to learn, then maybe that's okay. Maybe you're enjoying your job, doing what you're doing, and you are learning. You're just not learning as much. So maybe your perception of learning is different from what you perceive others expecting you to do. It all depends. It's all it's all about perception. If all of that happens and you still don't want to learn, then yeah, eventually it's only going to last about 10 years. After that, you're going to have to learn something new. That's how this industry works. I write blogs on what I'm doing. I tweet that I'm writing code. Okay, that's cool. Some people talk about it, some don't. John Papa cited, I forget the guy's name, but he talks about the dark matter developers. They're people who are so busy and smart in work, but they don't participate in any social media. So they're cool, they're smart, they contribute, they just don't talk about it. That's okay too. They do exist. It's just like dark matter, right? We just can't prove it because there's no evidence that they exist, right, in social media. I post code-related jokes. Very good. All the way saying, hey, everyone, I can code too. I'm like you, okay? If that's what you feel like to be accepted, so be it. If I can prove to you that I'm learning, then maybe I'll be able to join the Cool Kid Programmers Club. Dude, if you're coding, nobody cares. It's also a way to prove to the internship givers that I'm worth hiring because I'm prepared to learn. Well, good. You should prove yourself. Work hard. Prove that you want to learn. That's good. On the right path. As a new developer, I don't care what you are programming in. I just want to know what you're building. Okay, I understand that. As a senior developer, I would believe that it's important for you to know I'm coding JavaScript, which is client-based, rather than like something like PHP, which is backend-based. But yes, I will acknowledge I make the mistake of talking too much about the tools and not about actually what I'm building. A programming language is just a programming language to me. You've got your JavaScript, Pythons, and do cool things. I don't care about semicolons or tabs over spaces or why you think NPM is the best package, blah, 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 blah. I see these arguments all the time. Products. So I think what happens is that a lot of us get in a groove of using tools and you become attached to a certain way of building that's congruent with your way of thinking, your view of the world, what you want to accomplish. And I think those tools are marketed to those types of people. So those who want to build languages to enable others love OCaml and all those compiler type languages. Those who like functional, small, short, quick, get or done languages like Ruby and Python, those are their kind of things. They want to be involved in that world of facilitating that. Me, I want to be tangible with the GUI. I like interacting with things. I like the tactile touch. So for me, front-end languages are more. And that's why I have a love-hate with a lot of them, because they don't quite accomplish what I'm trying to do in my domain model, as they speak, right? So a lot of us get obsessed with their tools and tend to forget what we're really building. And let me just apologize for everybody that does that. We get obsessed by our tools because we want them to be better. We want to improve. We want to be better at them. Maybe over time I will come to understand this, but right now I don't get the pressure to be a devout follower of any one thing. You will. And if you don't, you're lying. I am able to encourage people to use Python as a first language. Good choice. But I am also not going to kick up a fuss if they decide to use Ruby or Go or Rust or whatever darn fine language they've set their sights on. Well, good for you being open-minded and not judging others. Awesome! As a new developer, I am easily swayed by the opinions of people I respect. Whoops. I hope you don't respect me. Some things I say are, spur of the moment. I don't always think. I do edit these videos, but I always think so. Grain of salt. At least the views and more experience. This post was kicked off by, and I do take that into account, by the way. I try to remember that what I'm saying can be influential, so I take that in mind. This post was kicked off by a few back and forth tweets on an open source contributions. One person stated that I don't need to worry about making open source contributions, and I went, yay, cool, less pressure. Another seemed to state that I am of little worth if I don't contribute. Darn, okay, I guess I better get on that then. I wish programmers were more aware of the things they are saying and the attitudes that they express and how that might affect a young Padawan like me. We are not. Mentorship in our industry is not very good at all because our ability to judge others in a way that's objective to identify if they're good or not is non-existent. So it's very difficult for us to turn that around and then look at ourselves and say, what would be best for that young person to learn? There are people who are good at it, but it is not mature enough yet, like carpentry or steelworking or medical industry. There's just not a lot of that mentorship pathway, like a guild where you learn certain tiers of development. That's just not there. A lot of us also are on open source and our words are taken out of context because sometimes we're thinking, sometimes we're debating with our friends in the open, and those conversations are not meant to be viewed as influential. They're merely us figuring things out. So again, massive grain of salt. I understand that's not helpful, but you just need to be aware that's where the context is. So I get it. We need to take responsibility for some of our declarations and our strongly held postulations and beliefs. So I agree that is a problem. As a new developer, there's a lot of pressure to do well, lest my programmer costume be rescinded. I agree. There's a lot of pressure to perform, and it's frustrating. I need to make money to live, but I don't feel I am worth hiring. Well, that's the imposter syndrome. That doesn't go away. You just need to get over it, be self-confident, set little goals, accomplish those goals, have a track record of that, build up your confidence, and that slightly goes away. Then you meet a PhD or some kid who dropped out of high school and is amazing as coding, and you feel stupid again. So, doesn't go away. I want to make contributions to open source, to give back to the community, but everything seems way over my head. Well, fine, pick a library that's not. There's a lot of libraries out there that are not way over your head. So if you're thinking of Lodash, that's a simple functional library. I could go port that to Java to maybe learn how they did it and maybe make a contribution to that or a different version. Or I could submit a feature request to it. Probably a very advanced predicate calculus functional library. You might want to pick something simpler, like go pick an animation thing and add another tweezing algorithm, which is like one line of code. Or go pick a website that has a horrible logo and go make a logo for them. Open source people love that stuff. One of the most simplest things for you to do that effectively helps every aspect of your career is go add some documentation or fix documentation. Spelling, grammatical errors, incorrect content, updated code examples. Programmers notoriously, some hate writing documentation. Anything you can do would score a lot of points for them and doesn't require that much technical capacity depending on how far you go. So that's a good example to do. So that I get stuck and reach out to the community for help and either receive encouragement and support or be judged and I'm told I'm doing it wrong. So programmers are people and they're on the internet and they're not in front of you. And thus 80% of the effective communication called body language isn't there. So the best we can do is 20% of our faculties to understand what you are doing, assuming you effectively conveyed that in writing over the interwebs. So, A, have patience with us. B, a lot of people have fatigue of answering a lot of questions and they need to take a break, but no one's there to tell them to take a break. So they can come off as coarse. You got to toughen up, just let it slide. That's all you can do. We're all here. We don't mean to be critical. Some do. If they do, ignore them. They're trolls. For the rest of us, just let it slide, man. Everyone wants you to succeed. The good people that matter. As a new developer, everything is new and exciting. Correct. I can have my own website up and running in minutes with just a sprinkle of HTML and a free host. I can write code to help others. I can write code to help myself. I can be ecstatic an entire day because I wrote 4 lines and it didn't break on execution. And I suppose you're not writing unit tests. So well done! You're living on the edge. I can engage with my peers in ways that I could not do so before. I can understand better and work with them. I can and love sharing my journey with others. I want people to be able to learn from my mistakes and also encouraged by my progress. Fantastic. GitHub, contributions or Bitbucket, Twitter, talking about it, going to Facebook, Google+, going to GitHub, going to your blog, writing it, posting code, going to user groups and speaking about it, even if it's just with friends or family. That's awesome. Spread love, pay it forward. That's what all open source is about, man. I can code my own path in this world, but I need your help and my patience to understand and to make the path easier. Cool. Got it. In return, you have my patience and my encouragement, my understanding. Fantastic. Good article, good post. So I just want to let you know, remember those things. They do go away. The insecurity does pass. Set up small goals, right? Hit a few of them, whether it's a pathfinding algorithm or you're trying to figure out how to accomplish a simple API call, or you're trying to set up something simple like I've never done authentication on the web before, or I've never gotten something to animate back and forth, or using multiple tweens at a time. Whatever it is, set small goals, accomplish them, 5 minutes a day, every day, whatever else, and remember it. Keep a track record somewhere, whether it's GitHub or some Bitbucket or something else that shows a list of what you've done, and look and say, this is what I've accomplished. I should feel good about myself. I've done all this, and know that it's keep going up. And eventually you see that and you do feel good about yourself. You know you have value. You know you can produce code. And from there it gets better. Okay, so a lot of insecurity goes away. If you're concerned about where can you contribute, there is nothing wrong with reinventing the wheel. Everyone seems to get really irritated about that. I'm telling you now, as someone who's rewritten a scroll bar 3 times because I thought I could do it better, right? I came to appreciate the guy who wrote the original scroll bar so much better. So there's nothing in programming better than reinventing the wheel, because when you are done, you have a massive appreciation for the wheel and how it's built, right? So if you see a library and you're like, I can do that better, don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Don't let them tell you you're naive or whatever else. You're young or inexperienced. Go do it, and do it 5 times. Get it right. Go different angles, different approaches, and you will learn a lot, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. These are good things. There's nothing wrong with having a projects folder on your computer and having 15 projects in there, and none of them are complete. But they're all like little things and experiments you played with, and you don't feel like posting any of them. Maybe only one of them has something that you would like either reuse or have, be confident enough to share with others. That is okay. But those kind of things will allow you to start and build up your skills so you can contribute. And again, a lot of these open source projects, they're not all advanced. Some of them are really small. Some just need documentation. Some just need a logo. Some just need a code quality check. Just go look at it and verify, the unit test run. You can check it out. You can test it and play with it. There's no bugs, right? Those kind of things go a long way. People really do appreciate that kind of stuff, okay? So no one's expecting you to write like a JSON web token crypto algorithm thing day one out, right? Simply, spell checking their readme.md at the top of GitHub, right? That's awesome. So keep your head up. If you're a senior developer, I highly encourage you to read this article by Charlotte Spencer. It's called As a New Developer. It's just a good reminder where these new developers come from and some of the things that we need to do better at, from a mentorship, from patience, from a being careful what you espouse and support, those kind of things, okay? So again, Jesse Warden here. Hope that makes you feel better, reminds you you're on the right path. Keep going.